think my audio was off, so I've got my audio on now. We will be discussing propylene glycol today. All right, so let's get started with the screen share. Get my audio, video up here. Share my video. Okay, and then press share. And here we go. Share that video. Okay, looks like we are sharing that video, so good. Okay, now you may be wondering, what is propylene glycol? And that is a great question. So propylene glycol, today we'll talk about propylene glycol. We'll go over rest so that we can recover from its effects, food preparation, and how to keep things delicious and simple, and we'll close. So first off, what is propylene glycol? I recently discovered propylene glycol as I learned about electrolytes. Propylene glycol, yes, it is antifreeze. When you look at a bottle of antifreeze, it will say not safe for consumption. But the thing is, propylene glycol is approved by the FDA as generally safe. Although the bottle of antifreeze says do not drink this, apparently you can place this in medications, IVs, just when you need it the most, you're trying to recover from being ill. Yes, they can put it in the medication that they're using to make you better. Not sure about you, but taking antifreeze does not seem like something that would actually make me better. But it's approved and it can be used in IVs. In that regard, I recommend, if given the option to list any allergies, then I would list propylene glycol as an allergy so that they can use an IV if available that does not include propylene glycol. If you take any medications, look at the label. In a few minutes, I'll show you how to look at food labels. Medication labels will be similar. Basically, look for the label and look for the word propylene glycol. I learned about this as I studied electrolytes. Electrolytes are the first thing that the hospital looks for. So if you get admitted into intensive care, the first thing that they will check in the hospital will be your fluids. They'll check to see if your electrolytes, that includes sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, they make sure that that is in balance. In a future episode, we'll go into how to include more electrolytes in your daily usage because electrolytes It just makes sense to include those because if why wait till you are in the ICU to balance your electrolytes? Those should be balanced on a daily basis. But that's a whole nother episode. Right now, we're talking about propylene glycol, how to find it, how to heal and recover from it. I decided I was going to see if I had propylene glycol in any of my products. And lo and behold, it did not take very long. The first three products that I found all had propylene glycol in it. This included my deodorant. For years, I have used aluminum-free, paraben-free deodorant, and I thought it was the greatest. I thought it was the greatest deodorant ever. But what I noticed was I developed a rash in my armpits from using it, and I couldn't figure it out. Just a persistent rash, and I just did not want to use my deodorant. And of course, I want to smell good. I don't want to have a bunch of body odor. And I couldn't figure it out. Why don't I want to wear this deodorant? It's aluminum free. It's supposed to be good for me. The number one product, the number one ingredient in that deodorant is propylene glycol. I couldn't believe it. I was floored. Next, I looked at my body wash. Yes, my body wash. I've been slathering it all over my body, all through my hair, and trying to figure out why. Because I started to gain weight and also started to lose hair as well. Long story short, when I started my recovery process a few weeks ago from propylene glycol, I decided to cut all of my hair off. And the reason is, as I started to clear my hair from the propylene glycol, I realized that it was pretty much infused in it. And I had really long locks down my back, down to the bottom, top of my backside. They were getting heavy, and I realized they were laden with chemicals and pollution. So why carry all of that around? It's better just to let go and move forward. So I let go of that. We'll talk about the recovery process here in just a few minutes. The third product that I looked at, antifreeze. Yes, not antifreeze, I'm sorry. Antifreeze I did look at, and of course on the label it says do not consume contains propylene glycol, which of course is contradictory to these products that have propylene glycol in them, like your aluminum-free deodorant. So if you're conscious about the deodorant that you use, check that to see if it has it in it and find a clay-based product or another product that's suitable and agreeable to you. The third product that I found was my mouthwash. Yes, trying to have good breath, clean teeth, free from antibiotics and microbials. Yes, at least my mouth can't freeze when I'm using this product. I no longer use it, of course. I'm no longer swishing my teeth in it before I go to bed. It was a hard discovery. It was very difficult to discover that this product was in so many of my ingredients that I use pretty much on a daily basis. These are products that I trusted to give me what I needed. And yet I ended up with rashes. I ended up with hair loss, weight gain. Who knows what would have happened if I continued using it on my teeth. Immediately, I told my dad, stop using this. The effects of propylene glycol, by the way, if you decide to consume it, can be metabolic acidosis, which is a precursor to diabetes. So if you've noticed diabetes, also heart conditions, using this, consuming propylene glycol can cause cardiovascular issues as well. In many cases, people who have diabetes also have cardiovascular issues. They also have arthritis, lo and behold, all three of these come along with the usage of propylene glycol. Both my dad and my grandmother have heart issues, diabetes, and arthritis. These issues are on the rise. For years, I always thought that food was the culprit. But with something like this that you're consuming on a daily basis, and I looked up for propylene glycol, what's a what's a recommended max? Recommended tongue in cheek, but because of course it's not recommended to consume antifreeze, even though it's in your IVs and medications. So talk with your doctors to make sure that you are using medications that are free of those products and get a product that does not have that. Yes, it can take time, but it's worth it. So those diseases are on the rise. And many health advocates, such as myself, have pointed at McDonald's and other fast foods as culprits. But what if it's the body wash that we're slathering on ourselves, or the mouthwash that we're rinsing our teeth with, or the deodorant we're trying to avoid consuming aluminum? So we're navigating to aluminum-free deodorant because we know that that can cause health issues as well, such as dementia, as the aluminum accumulates in your brain. So let's move on through the recovery process. If I can share my screen again. Okay, let's see. Is it sharing here? Says the screen sharing is paused. There we go. Now I'm sharing my screen. So let's move to the next slide. So talked about how to look at your ingredients. This is a product, by the way, it does not contain any propylene glycol, by the way. So it's guacamole. It's very delicious. So I highly recommend this product. The only synthetic ingredients that it has some natural flavors. So that could be something to look out for. And then just the generic spices, because spices, what's that? And that may be proprietary. Maybe they don't want to tell what spices they put in so that other companies cannot just mimic their product. But if it's something that's for consumption, if it's cosmetic, food, even your mouthwash, it's going to have this list on it, nutrient facts, and it'll have the ingredients here. And so these ingredients, which will tell you what's in it and whether or not you can recycle it. When you look at the ingredient list, look at propylene glycol, look at other things that are hard to pronounce. In many cases, things are put in Latin on the ingredient list. Right now, all of this is in English, and you pretty much probably understand the ingredients here. Ascorbic acid, you may not know what that is. In many cases, that's used, as it says, to maintain freshness. But aside from that, this is what you're looking for. Your medications also will have a list here, and it will say what's in it. When you go through your medication, if you find propylene glycol or some other products, you can do a search online and look up that product. And if you feel like that's unsafe, you can ask your doctor for an alternative medication. Many doctors, especially if you go to an integrative doctor, rather than giving you medication, they may look for a more natural alternative for you. There's so much to look for on the ingredients list. The only thing that I'd like you to focus on right now is just the ingredients. Later on, we can go into these other items such as fat and cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, and protein. We can go into details regarding that. But the focus for right now is simply propylene glycol and freeing ourselves from the usage of this product. At first, it may feel overwhelming to look for a product that does not contain propylene glycol. But your health is in your hands. We spend our hard-earned money on these products, and think of it as a vote. When you purchase something, that's your vote that you like this product, and you're telling the company to continue to make it. So by not purchasing this product, you're looking out for your loved ones because the company will either, I hate to say it, either they would just go out of business for just selling a bad product. In all likelihood, what they would end up doing is creating a product that people like. I mentioned McDonald's earlier. It's gotten a lot of slack, but they've adjusted. Just because people have picked on them for making them fat, allegedly, McDonald's adjusted. They've made smaller serving sizes, made a variety of serving sizes for people. They've introduced salads, smoothies, and other healthy products where applicable and where people who live in those areas that eat McDonald's are likely to enjoy the foods that they serve. So any company, if they know that you don't want it, they're going to adjust. That's the reason why aluminum-free deodorant exists, because people know that after going through cancer treatment, one of the recommendations is not to use deodorant with aluminum in it because it can be linked to cancer. It accumulates in the brain. It can lead to dementia. So that's something that people are aware of. Not many people, including myself until a few weeks ago, were aware that they are consuming antifreeze, which of course sounds ridiculous. If you were just to, hey, go gulp up some antifreeze, people would think you're crazy. But they would all nod their head and approve if you were to use body wash. If you were to create a product and take some antifreeze and add some soap to it, people would probably frown on you. And that's pretty much what is being done, and people don't even realize it. So I created this episode to help bring that awareness. Earlier, we saw Dr. Sasquatch. He's already been warning people about this. I just learned of Dr. Sasquatch when I created this episode, but apparently he's aware of the issues that can be caused from propylene glycol. So definitely appreciate you taking a look at that. Let's move into the recovery process. I think we know enough about all the bad things that can happen as we are using propylene glycol by now. I'm going back to share my screen, get this video brought back up. Okay, so once I realized that propylene glycol was in my products, after I stopped using them, I looked for alternatives. I began making my own clay-based deodorant, and I made my own face wash, body wash. The next thing I did was rest. I had this excruciating headache for about 3 days. I even had to take off from work just to rest and get over this headache that I had. The body wash that I've been using, I was using for about 2 years. So that's 2 years of slathering antifreeze all over my body. Surely, if you're anything like me, you're using more than 2 teaspoons of body wash at a time whenever you cleanse yourself. And 2 teaspoons is the max that's recommended on a daily basis if you decide to consume propylene glycol, which of course sounds outrageous. Just breathe. That's what I'm doing. Just breathe and sleep. Sleep is something else that we will go into in more depth because most of us don't get enough sleep. Before I began paying attention to my sleep and began teaching about health, on average, I slept about 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours a night, and I'd pop up and get back to doing activities. It definitely makes a difference in your day. You may seem like the day is much shorter. When you have 8 hours of sleep, there's 24 hours in a day. You spend 8 hours at work. So spending 8 hours in the bed seems like it could feel like prison to some people. But one thing that happens when you rest is your brain is able to recover. It's where short-term memory turns into long-term memory. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview right now because sleep is a whole lesson in and of itself. As we sleep, and I believe this is what helped me get to the point where I could recognize that there's something in my body care products, something that's causing a rash, something that's causing me to lose my hair. The headaches didn't start until I stopped taking the propylene glycol. And what I did to balance myself was have broth. The broth helped me balance my electrolytes. Earlier, I discussed when you are admitted into intensive care at the hospital, the first thing that they will do, the medical professionals, will balance your electrolytes. So I have a broth that I make with potassium, sodium, magnesium, and I sip that every hour. That's what they would do with an IV. If you were to have an IV put in, it slowly dripped in because you can't just change your body fluids at the snap of a finger. You have to gradually allow your body to balance and adjust itself. So I would sip a little bit of my broth and as necessary, release those fluids as my body let go of fluids that it did not need. Get some rest, take in those electrolytes, release those fluids, repeat. And that's what I ended up doing. So the first day that I began my recovery process from propylene glycol, I didn't realize how much it would affect me. I was trying to wash my clothes and all I wanted to do was lay down. And I just felt, why now? I'm trying to do my housework, got to get my 8 hours of sleep. I already slept 8 hours. Now my body is asking for even more. So the next day, long story short, I didn't wash my clothes. But I finally gave in to resting. The next day was when I introduced the broth and realized, hey, my body's going through a recovery process. So let me go with the flow. In Ayurveda, it teaches to go with your body. So when your body is wanting to discharge, which is what it was wanting to do, discharge those chemicals from years of consuming antifreeze, about 2 years of the body wash. I'd only recently started using the mouthwash, so that was good. I'd only used that mouthwash for about a month, but at 2 years of the body wash, and I probably used that deodorant for almost 10 years, to be honest with you. Um, and just sort of fought through the rash, never realizing that the rash could have been something related to the deodorant. At any rate, the next day, electrolytes, rest, bathroom as necessary. Day two, called out from work. I just couldn't get up. The 8 hours wasn't enough. I need the entire day plus some. But it helped. I'm much better now, recovered from the propylene glycol, and sharing that message. We can be propylene glycol free. Help your family and friends be propylene glycol free. Encourage them to rest. But first, put the face mask on yourself. Those are the instructions when you take a flight. They say put the mask on your face first before putting the mask on your child or other family members. So once you have recovered from propylene glycol, then you can help your family members, your parents, your children, spouse, and siblings recover from that process as well. And each of us can encourage each other not to consume antifreeze. So we've talked about rest. Let's move on to our next topic here. While I rested, did not have an appetite. But once you feel better, then you will get hungry again. So the recommendation for food, if you're trying to eat healthy and avoid fast food, is to plan in advance. For me, I find that foods that I want pretty much change on a week-to-week basis. It changes on a week-to-week basis. And this is based on, from what I can gather, just fluctuations in my hormones. So during the month, the progesterone, estrogen, as those balance, as one hormone is greater than the other, my taste buds will change. One week, I may want sweet foods. The next week, I want bitter foods with lots of garlic and vinegar. And then the next week, I may want a bunch of foods with proteins and nuts. By the way, I do try to focus on eating plant foods. I do eat some meat from time to time, but the primary focus is on plants. So planning in advance, if you have a monthly cycle as well where your hormones fluctuate, you can keep a journal, and that way from one month to the next you can realize, okay, well this week I'm probably going to want really sweet foods. So usually the week before my cycle starts, I want sweet foods. Then after that, I want salads. The week after that, I probably will want, as I mentioned, like some garlic. This week, I don't want any garlic. So I'm eating spices such as cumin, coriander, which is, if you're familiar with cilantro, it's the seeds that go with the cilantro. So those are the types of foods that I'm craving this week. Find the foods that work best for you, and when possible, prepare them in advance so that they're ready when you're hungry. Because otherwise, you'll be out at a restaurant eating the food, and you may not want that. You may not want the weight gain. You may not want to eat those foods. So keep it delicious, keep it simple. Recognize what your taste buds want and give it what it needs. You can switch it up. So right now I'm eating a lot of tomatoes. I enjoy tomatoes and I love peas. So that's what I'm eating this week. We'll see what it'll be next week. If you have any questions or concerns about anything that we've brought up, feel free to leave your comments below. I'll read all the comments and we can address any issues or concerns that you have in future episodes. I'd like to thank you for watching and look forward to seeing you all again.